that you kind of came up with before you actually looked at the pre-entries? Like after you looked at them, you're like, oh, I wasn't thinking that before.
Bunch of races, like a bunch of races are like that. Honestly, I felt it like this. There were about half the fields where they came out and I said, yep, that's exactly what I thought I was going to do. And about half of them, I was like, oh boy, that's some different shit. That's some stuff I'm really have to take a look at. That's some stuff where I've got to pivot, blah, blah, blah. So yes, definitely some surprises, definitely some European horses that are coming over that I didn't really think of. A couple of pace scenarios really jumped out at me as well that I'm looking forward to talking about.
Yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to go through, obviously, and and talk about every race and who's in, who's out. Focus on a few specific ones, and of course, look at all these races from a pace standpoint, kind of preliminary pace standpoint, also a trend standpoint. The 14 trends it's done. I'm just waiting to release it. So we'll kind of go through a few of those trends as well as we're going through these. We're a week away. We're on the eve of this time next week will be, tomorrow will be the Breeders' Cup. So we don't have any time left, really. This is it.
Nope, this is it. That's right. And I can feel it, man. Like I just, when those entries came out or pre-entries came out, you just felt that final push to get things going. And like I said, Monday, the actual entries will come out. And so you can really finalize things and then get to Lexington after that. Yeah, it's crazy that it's here, but man, this is going to be a hell of a Breeders' Cup. After seeing these horses and finally seeing them all on the same page there and lined up together, this is really going to be something.
I was sitting there thinking about it today. I was like, I wonder if Halterman's looked at more races or if I've cleaned up more puke this week. Like, I wonder which one it is. I that's my week so far, and so I'm really itching to dive in like you have. Obviously, the guide will come out on Wednesday. So I'll have my chance to kind of dive into these. I've got some good thoughts already, but I'm like you. You're chomping the bit to get on the show. I'm chomping the bit to like dive in and start doing my analysis and my research and trying to figure out. Because that's the thing about the Breeders' Cup. You know all these well, other than the internationals, you learn a little bit about those obviously when you go through, but a lot of these horses, and so then it just kind of turns into figuring out, like what's Cyberknife going to do now in the dirt mile? How does that change things? Or how does Jack Christopher? Can you use him to beat Jackie? And who can beat Flightline? Can anybody? So there's all these little tiny bit, or who's going to finish second to Flightline if you want to go that route. Tons of little, like, you got to dive in and start to kind of make those final decisions. So let's do it. Let's just I know you're ready. You don't care. You're just ready to get into these races. We'll go through each race one by one, all 14. Obviously, some of them faster than others. Focus on a few of the big ones as well, so you guys can give your comments and thoughts on that. So today we will look at the 2022 Breeders' Cup pre-entries for each of the 14 Breeders' Cup World Championship races at Keeneland. Then we're also going to look at the projected pace and trends for each race, including, of course, the $6 million Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Let's go. Yeah. By the way, I think the answer would be me and puke.
Yeah. You never gave me a chance to answer. You just kept going.
I know. Well, I'm ready to get over it. Ready to get past it.
Yeah.
I'm tired. All right. Do you guys see? All right. There you go. All right. So I'm going to just, we'll go one by one and obviously, look at these, some of them closer than others. And you guys give your thoughts on these, as well. And we'll go from there. All right. Well, I think it was like 200. Was it 205?
I don't know the answer to how many. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was 205.
Okay.
All right. 205 pre-entered horses in this year's Breeders' Cup World Championship. Headline, of course, by who else? Flightline. We'll get to him in a little bit, but let's start with Friday's races. We're gonna go through these one by one. Obviously, the fields aren't out yet, the official fields, but we do know kind of where what horses are pre-entered into each race, which each division, as well as what some of them might be, focusing on. Their first priority might be one race over another. So we'll kind of go through those as well as we go through this. Let's kick things off, Halterman, with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. One of the I'll start with Tyler's Tribe, because I know you like this horse. Do you really think this horse can come in here and win this race?
No, I don't. I think it's interesting that they put him here. I do think, he's got the early speed to make himself dangerous. I kind of feel like this race this year, the way this pace is going to set up, there's a lot of early speed, and that could be a problem for him down the road, because you got Speedboat Beach, who likes to run fast early. Tyler's Tribe, sharp as attacks. There's a couple of sharp Aztecas that are going to be out there on the front here. I think it's a really tough spot for Tyler's Tribe. I think he's really, didn't work great over the turf, and I think that's going to be part of his problem as well. But I think he might be a little overmatched in this one. The thing that really stands out to me more so than in previous years, we have a lot of European runners this year in this one. And not only European runners, ones that look formidable, one that look like they should have a shot here, including the Platinum Queen, who beat older horses last time out. So it's very interesting to see kind of how this field and this dynamic lines up compared to previous years. This feels like a much different juvenile turf sprint this year compared to what we've seen.
I mean, it definitely is, and of course you've got a horse like Love Reigns for Wesley Ward, who, like you talked about the internationals, isn't technically international, but did run overseas at Royal Ascot and finished fourth in that race. That, to me, this is a horse that, I mean, I understand the thought, but we talk about speed, and this race has been about speed really since the beginning of its inception, which is relatively young. But Wesley Ward and speed horses on the turf are just absolutely deadly in this race. So this horse almost seems like a lock, and I hate to say that, but that's where I'm at with Love Range right now.
It will be a little bit interesting because she's not going to be on the front in this race. And if she is, it'll be a surprise. If you watched her race last time out at Saratoga, she kind of sat off the speed and then pounced. I think that's the trip she's going to get here too. I would love to see her draw, 8, 9, 10 post, be able to be outside of everybody and just kick home. As of right now, I'm leaning towards Love Reigns. And when I say that kind of stuff, listen, this could all change. But we've had one look through, but I think Love Reigns is a horse that is going to have to do it a different way than what we've seen this turf sprint won in the past. But again, I think it's a little different this year. There is a lot of speed signed on. I think Love Reigns does sit the perfect trip in this one, though.
I mean, Kevin says I'd let Ward beat me if she's sub 5-2. She probably will be. Wesley Ward has won this thing, 3 years in a row. Mm-hmm. So it's, and even to the point, like, where it was like, you thought one horse would do it and the other horse went out and did it, kind of thing. And so sometimes he has a couple, he only has one. It just feels like she's going to be awful tough to beat here. There's one thing I at least in my mind, I always say, like, okay, like the internationals, they're really good on the turf, obviously, but they don't necessarily do they're not known for having like the top end turf sprinters in the world. Wesley Ward is like, that's what he thrives in that angle. So going to be tough, but you probably will have to suck down a price. And I do get that, because this is going to kick things off on the day as far as the Breeders' Cup races go. And you sure hate to get knocked out or get beat by Wesley Ward whenever it feels like a lock, when there might be other opportunities down the road. Anything else you want to add to this?
I would say out of the 5 races for Breeders' Cup races on Friday, this is the third most likely favorite to lose. So I think there's 2 other races where you could beat a favorite easier than here.
I agree. Definitely. Okay, we'll talk about that. I think I agree with that. All right, let's go to the next one. The NetJets Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. You obviously have Chocolate Gelato in here, who is a horse that is probably going to be the favorite, I think, out here for Todd Pletcher. This has been one of those divisions all year, really, or half the year, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. That it's been hard to kind of get an idea of who's what and how good these horses are, and it feels like some of them are still needing to develop. And Tell Me No Lies is a horse that's been nice out west. Chop Chop. I mean, obviously, we had a weird trip that day at Keeneland, but should thrive next time out, you would think. But where do you go with this one?
This is a race where you got to try to beat the favorite, I think. I know Chocolate Gelatos look very good, but this looks a little bit like a mess. You look at Chocolate Gelato, 2 good races in a row, but really more of a sprinter type of look from a pedigree standpoint. Now we're stretching out. She's not far and away better than these horses anyway. So it makes for a lot of interesting scenarios that could happen. The pace is really kind of in question too. There's a couple of horses that like to go early. Then there's 2-3 horses. It's like, yeah, they may go to the lead. They may stalk. The pace is very unpredictable in this race. I think this is a very much just a crapshoot at this point. I'm hoping post positions maybe kind of help us narrow it down. Right now, I think there's going to be a price in this one.
Dude, it feels like it. But the problem is just like, where do you go? You got to, I've made it my trends that, and I don't want to give them all out here, but basically this is a race that is really, really hard to win if you're a heavy favorite. And really the only horses that have done that in recent years is Echo Zulu and Songbird. And both of them obviously came into that race with tons of, back power. They'd won in grade ones and they had, they were sub even money. Like they were legit horses, right? Going into the race. Well, Chocolate Gelato is not, she might be okay, but there's an opportunity here to try to beat her. And I don't know if it's Chop Chop or if it's someone even crazier, if it's someone that, has been kind of not running terrible, but also not really breaking through. Maybe finally breaks through in this race here. So I think it's every opportunity. I think this is we'll talk about it, but I think this might be the one race at least out of Friday on the Breeders' Cup card that I feel like you have to play against the favorite. Like if the favorite wins, you're just like whatever, like use her if you want. But this one seems like is begging to be an upset.
The way the card sets up, there's 2 horses we'll talk about here in a minute that I don't think are going to lose. They're going to be favorites. So yeah, it kind of forces your hand a bit here. But the good news is, you don't really have to be too imaginative to come up with somebody. I mean, Kevin B mentions You're My Girl. Why can't that horse win? Third time, third race of the career, second time against winners. Only got beat a length to the favorite last time out. And Chocolate Gelato has a pedigree that says stretch out. She might be able to close the gap on that horse. I came up with like 3 reasons already, and I just barely glanced at it while we're talking. So, yeah, listen, this is a race. There's a lot of different ways you can go. They all look alike in this spot.
Yeah, and it's not been a race that, is typically, other than, like I said, like the Songbird or the Echo Zulu, like where it's like, point is like a horse could win this race and really not do much after either. He'd just be one of those weird races where a horse just jumps up and runs that big race. And then the other side of that is maybe these horses just aren't that great. That's the other part to it. I think Wonder Wheel, although that horse won't be a prize, but Wonder Wheel has a good shot here. I like that if you're looking for gate to wire. There's like you said, like take your pick, and you really can't really talk anyone off of any of these. Yeah, it's because shit, man. Like, why would you? Let's try to get a price on them. All right, let's go to the next one here. Let's go to the Juvenile Fillies Turf. Interesting to know if you want to go against, if you think an upset's going to happen here. So obviously, this is a race that we thought that Blue Rose Sin would be coming. Meditate is going to be that kind of international horse right here that's going to be coming over internationally for Aiden O'Brien. Past that, dude, I mean, is it Free Look, G. Laurie? I don't know. Like, where this race, it's like the second most possible race to just play against a favorite.
This is one of about 3 or 4 races I'll tell you guys that I don't have a strong feel for. This is kind of a weird one. I have a pretty strong indication of how good the European horses are until we get to this one. I'm not sure how good these horses are that are coming over. It seems a little sketchy to me. And our horses, they're kind of a bit inconsistent, not only with their running, but their running styles have been a little bit weird as well. So I'm on the fence with a lot of these horses on here. This is going to be a really interesting race. I'm leaning towards Delight a little bit at this point, but I don't know if that'll be the favorite or not, right? And if she is, it kind of makes you like, yeah, maybe we try to beat her with somebody. But I don't know. This one is just kind of a weird one for me.
Meditate coming in off of back-to-back second place Group 1 finishes overseas. So obviously you would think a class relief here. It's one of those weird races that Americans have done pretty well at in the Breeders' Cup for whatever reason on turf. And so, to me, you look at a horse like Free Look, I think who's going to be value here, should be value, who kind of should have won last time out, didn't. Gets Pratt, or Pratt's right, Pratt, Chad Brown, like that horse wins, you're not going to be surprised whatsoever. Let's see, Meditate on top. I saw.
Well, okay, let's pause on
passage.
Let's pause on this comment because that's not true. Number one. Number two, okay, this horse is lost as a favorite 2 straight races. And I know they're in tough company. In one-turn races, not one-turn races, sorry, in flat 6 furlong and 7 furlong races, the horse is by no nay never. That doesn't scream a mile to me. That doesn't scream the horse is going to get better going a mile. I was not that impressed with this horse when doing the replay work, and that's where the problem lies. It doesn't have anything to do with the trainer. Aiden O'Brien is a horse I'll bet a million times, just like Applebee's. So it's not a true statement. The statement is I'm not that impressed with her replays, and I don't know that 2-turn mile is going to be suited well for this horse. And that makes it wide open after that.
A horse that has been going 6 and 7 furlongs, 5 furlongs. Like you said, is going longer for the first time. So that's another possible shot to take against. Delight is a horse for Jonathan Thomas that's it been interesting, I think, coming into here. I'm kind of wondering, we talked about this horse a lot when the horse ran in the Alcibiades. You're going to have to say it, Xeria. Sure. The fact that they, this horse, we all said it, like this horse would have been the favorite in that turf race for, but they chose to try the horse on the dirt, which obviously didn't go awful, but it definitely did not go well. And now they're back into the turf where she probably should have been all the time. And so those 2 races prior were pretty damn good, but they're only, she's only got a maiden special weight win under her belt.
She is definitely another one. I don't know what quite to do with her. She's got dirt pedigree on the top, turf pedigree on the bottom. She really looked good in that race at Saratoga, but then you went to the dirt. Now you're going back to the turf. She's a young horse. I'm just afraid that she might not, like changing surfaces so many times already and back and forth. I really wish they would have prepped her in a turf race. I think that would have given us a lot better indication. And again, this horse is going to be a short price, and we're not quite sure how exactly she's going to show up. And it's tough. It's real. This is the most likely race to produce a price, because then you look at like the Chad Brown Free Look, who looked like a monster going into that Miss Grillo and looked like she was going to roll and then couldn't pass, Pleasant Passage. They're both back in this spot. So then the favorite of that race was Be Your Best. She's back despite not running very well. So it's like, couldn't you see that getting flipped? And the horse that finished third runs best in this spot. I mean, there's a lot of different ways. I would really warn you guys, if you really like Meditate, go for it. I would really warn you taking a short price on her. That's where I'm gonna say. I mean, I don't want to talk anybody off a horse if they love them. Be careful. I don't think she's a slam dunk in this spot.
Well, and you might run into the issue, that people look at it and say, well, like we're kind of talking, like I can't decide. Like these Americans are all the same. I can't be one beat this one that time, the other one beat this one. I can't get in the grip on them. Oh, Aiden O'Brien's got this horse has been running Group 1 race, has been running really well. I just picked that's the horse because that horse, she's got to be better than these.
She can win. Probably gonna be a horse. Like I've had that horse in the win spot. I'm not gonna sit here and just say I hate the horse, but the more I look at it, it's just like I just think she's gonna get beat. And you're right. It is definitely one of those races where you're gonna look at it and go, well, I'm gonna gravitate towards something. And that is the thing that you can gravitate towards the most. One of two horses, Delight, because look great over the track, great for a new jock, or Meditate because look at the company and it's Aiden O'Brien, and we'll give that one a shot. Also, a big thing with these European horses, what riders do they get, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a big thing. We don't know that for sure yet. So that's another big time angle. Like what if Meditate gets Ryan Moore to come over? Well, that's going to elevate the horse without any question. So a lot to unpack in this race is how I would describe it.
All right, let's go to the main event on Friday. Of course, this is the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and it's been a race that's been very productive up until last year in terms of producing Kentucky Derby quality horses. We've seen several years in a row before last year where these horses went on, many horses, or the winners went on to run or win the Derby. And you look at this race here, and you're sitting there staring at Cave Rock, who makes his case for being the shortest price of the 2 days with Flightline. This is a combination of he's looked really, really good, and it's Bob Baffert, and we know what these horses do for him when in these kind of spots. And is it also the fact that there's just not who's going to beat him? And what have you seen in these past races that you think can beat Cave Rock?
There's nobody, and that's the thing. You're going to get into these last two races on Friday. It's tough. And, I analyze this pace. I don't think there's a lot of challengers for this horse up front. Because how you think, okay, how can we get a juvenile beat? Well, maybe there's some horses that'll kind of fly with him early, and we'll have to see if he can sit off the pace, be a little bit patient. I don't see anybody that can run with him early. And if there are a couple, they're cheap ass speed that you don't have to worry about. I kind of think he just cruises around that track. I look for this to be kind of a blowout. I think he's going to win based on everything I've seen, based on watching all the replays of these horses, based on the pace setup I see. I think he's going to win by 3-4 lengths.
I've heard you mention this a couple times on different shows of ours, and I think it's true that it's kind of like it's like Corniche last year, only a lot better of a horse. You know what I mean? Where it was like none of us really wanted to pick Corniche, of course, after Jack Christopher scratched. But you're like, who else am I doing? Like what am I going to do? And these horses keep going out, and and then obviously the horse isn't very good. We see that. But still won. But Cave Rock is really good. Like Cave Rock has the look of being a serious horse, not just now, but as a 3-year-old, son of Airgate, which is awesome, of course, as well, to get that, get his his prodigy going there. But yeah, Cave Rock to me is just, I honestly, I wouldn't say I was on the fence with him, but I thought that last race, obviously going 2 sprints and maybe didn't look unbelievably awesome in the Futurity, looked really good, but you're like, okay, let me see what he can do here in the Pharaoh. Like, what can he do stretching out? And I was like, oh, he's that horse. Okay, got it.
Like, oh, he's better going 2 turns.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm good. So that's all I needed. The eye test was he passed that. So I'm not gonna this race to me. I guess we'll have to talk about it a little bit because people will try to beat him with like Forte. I guess it's probably the most logical horse to beat him. It's a horse that's won 3 of 4 races, including back-to-back Grade 1 races. That's a great thing. We're talking about a horse that's won a Grade 1 at Saratoga and a Grade 1 at Keeneland, and we're like just tossing it.
I really like Forte. I'll be shocked if Forte beats Cave Rock. That's how I'll put it. Absolutely shocked. I will be more surprised if Cave Rock loses than Flightline, and I'll get to that in a minute. I think Cave Rock is the most likely winner of the entire Breeders' Cup. I think I am so impressed with what I've seen from Forte the last 2 races. this Cave Rock horse just looks better. And I just think he's in another stratosphere compared to the company. And that's the thing. Flightline is taking on tremendous company. We'll get to the Classic in a minute. Like I keep saying, that's a little foreshadowing when I think about that race. Cave Rock is taking on Forte and National Treasure, basically. The rest of them, I don't buy it. As far as a win, I just think Cave Rock is far and away better than these horses. And I kind of like Forte, but Cave Rock has just looked tremendous.
National Treasure, who he just dismissed last time out in the American Pharoah. I do think Forte is more like, he's like a, like next year he'll be really good. I think he's that horse that I think we'll see a lot of during the Derby Trail. Like I would almost argue that you might see more of him because you never know with these Baffert horses, and of course with Baffert what's going to happen. Like Forte might be in more preps than Cave Rock next year. Like that he seems like that kind of horse. By the way, a little inside scoop here from Michael. Bob, he was hanging out with old Bobby this morning, and says this horse reminds him of Pharoah, is what he said. Bob Baffert, never tells no lies. So
he reminds me of Arrogant.
Makes sense, right?
Because you think about Pharoah, lost his first race, came back and ran really, really well in the next race, and then like the American Pharoah, he was fantastic in. That was a front runner back in the day. And then he really took that step forward. This horse has just been like dominant every race. There's no hiccup so far. Now, hopefully, he doesn't fall off the map like Pharoah, but like Arrogate, I should say. But he just kind of has a dominant way about him already. He's scary. Like I'm over the moon about him. He's scary.
All right, let's go to the last race. So everyone remembers last year's last race on Friday when, of course, Modern Games won but didn't win. If you had a ticket, you didn't win. We're going to try to do this again this year, Halterman. What do you think? With the same trainer, same connections, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, last race of Friday after the Juvenile. Silver Knot is the horse for Appleby that's coming over. And after he kind of changed plans and said, no, this is the horse I'm bringing over here, to me, and I think all of us were like, oh, that he really likes this horse. To me, I think Silver Knot, out of the 5 races we've talked about, I don't know if Love Reigns. I may second most likely winner, maybe Silver Knot.
I think he's right up there with Cave Rock. I think he will absolutely dominate. I love Silver Knot in this spot. Part of it is I don't love our horses for this race very much, our United States-based horses. I think it's between Silver Knot and Cairo. He looks very good too. So maybe I'll back up a little bit. So I do think Cairo looks awfully good for Aiden O'Brien. I think it's between these two, but Silver Knot, man, I watched a lot of replays and I thought that race last time out for him in Newmarket was really, really good. It's really what I wanted to see when I was watching replays, trying to find a horse or two that's going to beat ours. I really just gravitated towards Silver Knot and Cave Rock. Or excuse Cave Rock, a Cairo, got Cave Rock on the brain there. So I just think it's going to be between these two. I think there's going to be enough pace up front too, where both these horses are going to be able to kind of roll in the stretch. I like Silver Knot the best though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what really went into that decision, but I thought it was interesting that they kind of made that choice, especially since the horse just ran earlier this month. Kind of thought, all right, like, you obviously saw something with that race you're referring to, the autumn stakes at Newmarket, where you're like, okay, he thinks this horse is really good, right? So if he's just making that last minute decision to say, no, I'm going to bring this horse over to run in the Breeders' Cup, and I don't think this is correct. This is probably not the best way, but in my mind, I always think of like when Appleby brings, and someone compared, I know if Appleby does this or whatever, like I do think any of Aiden's horses are live, and it seems like, especially more recently, when Appleby has a horse over, it's like you kind of know it's legit, right? Whereas sometimes Aiden has brought over like really good horses, obviously, like really that kind of horse. But a lot of times Aiden will win a race or get second within a race with the horse like 40-1. Like he'll bring a bunch of them over, and you never know which one of his are going to run well. Whereas Appleby, it feels like, in my opinion, will bring over the ones he thinks are all going to win, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely think with Appleby. He's like you said, he's a little more narrow with who he brings. I don't know if that's the best way to put it or not, but selective. He's a little more selective with who he brings, and where it's a cavalry charge from Aiden.
Yeah, literally.
I don't worry about either one of them. Like I've we've had success with either one of them. But you're right, Appleby. And the one thing about him, I love listening to his interviews a week out. Like this weekend, I'm sure there'll be an interview out. He'll tell you who he thinks is going to win. And he's a very honest trainer. A lot of these guys aren't. He is. I really, really like listening to his interview. He told us last year, because he had two in the juvenile turf, and he's basically the other one, not the one that wasn't Modern Games. Althika, I think the name was like, he ain't shit. Like Modern Games is going to dominate,
I remember whenever you made that whenever you made that decision, I remember you saying that, like, listen, this is the horse he likes. And you loved Modern Games going into last year.
Oh yeah. And because I liked what I saw as far as on the replays. And then I watched that interview, and he said he basically just called his other horse a piece of shit, and the Modern Games was going to win. So what the fuck? I mean, yeah, sure. I'm gonna play that horse. So he will tell us that. He will let us know, and I'm looking forward to that, because I do like him quite a bit in a couple of spots. This certainly been one of them.
All right, let's wrap on Friday. Let's move to Saturday. It's when the big racing gets going, and we'll kick things off. It starts off early. Hope you're ready. Race 3 on the program. So we only got to sit through 2 races, itching to see the Breeders' Cup, and then it's on from there. Especially being out, on the East Coast or East time zone, you have it's early, right? Early in the day. Like we'll be done with it. We'll be done before 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So yep. It feels like sometimes out west or a marathon, because you're up all day, obviously in the morning. And then of course, races don't start till later. Whereas this is it feels like it's quick. Anyways, Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, kind of a surprise here for all of us when we saw this pre-entry with Latruska. I'll be honest, I thought we'd seen the last of her maybe forever, certainly this year. And there she is, cutting back to the Filly and Mare Sprint, going 7 furlongs. Latruska giving company to Echo Zulu, who's going to try to win back-to-back Breeders' Cup races herself. And kind of seems like maybe she's back in form a little bit here, especially going this distance. But they both like to go. And this is a race that's been tough for speed horses in the past. So it seems like this thing is set up for, and I haven't put my finger on it yet, but one of these horses that's going to sit off of it.
It has to be. I mean, this is crazy. Echo Zulu, Hot Peppers, Lady Rocket, Latruska Slammed. They all want the lead. Say 1 or 2 of them don't break and don't get there. There's still 3 of them. I mean, this is nuts, man. And Edgeway doesn't want to be too far out of it, although she probably won't be part of that early pace and will sit the second flight. But it feels like a total meltdown in this race. And it feels like it sets up really well for the obligatories and even a CC again, or a Goodnight Olive, somebody like that. I haven't really decided which one I want to try to take a shot with, but I think you got to kind of take a closer in here. It just looks like it's going to be big time speed. I'm leaning towards obligatory at the moment, and I really, really liked how Goodnight Olive was able to sit off the pace 2 races in a row. It just seems perfect for those 2 horses.
I really wish they would have chose Kamari here, because I would have felt a little bit more.
Well, how well would it set up for Kamari?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
exactly. Like she would have came running late, she would have it been the perfect setup. She likes Keeneland. Like there would have been a lot of things to like with her in this setup as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm with some, toss. Latruska. I've been over her for a while now. But yeah, obligatory. You wonder if the distance is a little too. I don't know. Like you can't. She's one of those that you can't. Will she get there? Especially with these some really good horses in here. Like I expect her to make a run, because that's what she does. But you've seen it so many times where you like, oh, here she comes. Here's her run, and it just feels like she's kind of spinning her wheels a little bit. Can't quite get there. So I don't know if you can trust her completely to get it done. Goodnight Olive is probably going to be. I feel a little like I'm getting suckered into that one a little bit, just because of how good she's looked. But she's looked so good, right? And it also sets up so well for her in this setup.
The problem with obligatory is everybody's going to see what I'm seeing, right? And what you're seeing and what everybody in the chat's seeing, and they're going to fall to obligatory. And then all of a sudden, a horse that should be about 6-1 is going to be 3-1, and then she's not going to fire, and then you're going to be pissed, right? I can see that happening. So that's my worry with her. But all signs, it's like a big red circle 100 times around obligatory because of the setup that's potentially going to happen.
They will fly. And, and the thing is, like, we've seen Goodnight Olive sit very close to it, beyond it even. For a horse that's somewhat lightly raced, 6 starts, she's shown that she can sit off of a really quick pace, or she can be on the pace if she needs to be. That, to me, that gives you enough confidence. She likes Keeneland, 1-for-1 at Keeneland, 3-for-3 at the distance. So she's dangerous. I just don't know about the price on what you're going to get on her. But you guys get, like, if you learn anything from what we're saying, do not. And I really liked Echo Zulu, because after that last race, I was like, oh yeah, she's back. But how you could play any speed in this race? I mean, we saw, Gamine couldn't get the job done last year with it. We've seen it many times. Serengeti Empress couldn't get done because she got beat by Gamine. You could also make a case for, like, maybe it's not like maybe Echo Zulu wins because she was just off of Latruska, right? Like, maybe Latruska sets the pace and Echo Zulu is like half a length behind her and then pounces. Like, I don't know if it's gonna be a full meltdown, or if these two, if they're just going nose to nose, then you're screwed. The thing is, how do you even trust Latruska? May not even go to you know what I mean? Like, how do you trust Latruska at all at this point?
I'm not even considering Latruska as being entered, honestly, because I don't trust her to go to the front. It's a 7-furlong race, and I think she's kind of done anyway. So she's going to do one or two things. I don't think she's going to show up at all, or she's going to go to the front and just be a speed, casualty. So I don't really care that she's in it, other than I hate that she's in it, because Latruska is a horse that deserves to just be retired and enjoy life, because she's done enough. And she's given you every sign she doesn't really want to do this anymore. So I don't really worry about her. It's like, sometimes when you see this, it sets it up for a closer you're not even really thinking of either, because everybody's walking. And it's just that grinder. It's like, well, that grinder can't really win a sprint race unless that kind of pace happens. I'm worried this is going to be like a balloon, I think is what I'm going at. We could see something dumb.
Kind of nutty. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kick off the day like that. And it'd be like one of those that you look back and say, well, we knew it was going to be freaking nuts, right? And none of these horses are that, like, all these horses aren't that great. And so maybe that's what it takes. I'm looking through them right now. Like, who is that? I remember cashing last time out on Chi-Town Lady in a tournament.
Yeah.
That's a horse that came flying late, just picking them off. Maybe that's it. Japan didn't have much entered this year somehow, but maybe we didn't even talk about Cece. I mean, that's a horse that, she's kind of the old mare now, I guess, but she's obviously won this race last year for starters, and she's a horse that's going to be off the pace and has the quality to win a race like this. She's done it.
It's possible she's going to have the perfect setup. I don't think she's quite as good this year as last year, but if she shows up and is ready to pop with a big one, maybe. Like, I could see it. I really didn't like this horse at all coming into this year. Then you get to the race and you see the setup, and it's like, well, she makes sense from a race shape standpoint.
Yeah, she was not good when she faced Goodnight Olive in the Ballerina, but she did rebound when she went back out to Santa Anita.
If you know that horse by now, you kind of know when she's going to run well and when she's not. In that race, I didn't even consider her, because it's like, shipping to Saratoga, like, she's not going to run her big race here. I just had that feeling. It's like, she's not going to.
What's funny is they ran the exact same setup as they did last year. So last year, they went to the Princess Rooney and won. They did the same thing this year. Went to the Ballerina, lost to Gamine, wasn't incredibly close. Went to the Ballerina this year, lost. Went to the Chillingworth, won by 5 last year. Went there this year, won. And then, of course, went on to win the Breeders' Cup. So you want to talk about a plan in place. I think they've got it down, right? So definitely a horse that especially if this horse like somehow floats up. I mean, because last year I think you got like 6-1 on her, maybe somewhere in that department. She's been the favorite the last 3 starts, so you wonder what you're going to get. But if you can get somewhere in that 6 to 10-1 range on CC, is like, come on.
Yeah.
To me, there's a lot of value there. All right, let's go to the next one here, the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Golden Pal. I think this is one of the. We'll start off right on the Saturday with one of the horses that I feel like you can count on the most, but I know a lot of people aren't that way with him. What do you think of Golden Pal and his chances to win 3 Breeders' Cup races in a row?
He's got a big chance, but they have sent over some really nice international horses here. He will beat our horses, but this Highfield Princess looks really, really good. Naval Crown, Creative Force. There's some really nice international runners that have me kind of scared. I'm on the fence about what I'm going to do on top here. I think Highfield Princess is going to be pretty tough to beat this year for Golden Pal. But the rest of them, past those, I think he's got everybody else's number. But these other ones, they look pretty darn good. They're running really good, and they stand out when you watch their replays.
Yeah, there's Campanelli, someone. We've seen that before. I mean, actually, last year, Golden Pal was the other Wesley Ward. If people kind of forget that. Who was the other one? Who was the other Wesley Ward last year?
You're thinking of the Juvenile Turf Sprint.
I thought, what did he go off at last year? He went off at
favorite,
yeah. I'm thinking of the fillies. I'm thinking of the Philly. The Philly one.
Thinking of Averly Jane.
Yes, we all thought the horse would go out to the lead, and then the other one did, and then we know what happened after that. But yeah, Golden Pal obviously loves Keeneland. He's one of those that the trends are even all pointed to Keeneland as well. I mean, not only does he win Breeders' Cup races, but he wins at Keeneland.
That sounds good.
I'll put this waiting for glass to break. Hey. I've got 2 sick boys here at home, unsupervised, so we're on thin ice right now. I'm with you. The more I've looked at this race and the more I've looked at Highfield Princess, I'm like, I want Golden Pal to win. Obviously, I think that horse is so fun, just goes out and blazes. But it definitely feels like, what have you seen from Highfield Princess when you look through her races? Is this a horse that is going to be very close to the lead? Is this horse that's going to press Golden Pal? How do you expect that race to unfold? Because we know Golden Pal, like, he did win off the pace. We know how that all went. It was close. Kind of realized, okay, just go to the lead. So assuming he breaks well, he'll go to the lead, and they all have to catch him. And like you mentioned earlier, we know none of our horses can catch him because they never do. But can Highfield Princess do it?
The problem is, and this is the biggest problem when it comes to the turf races, a horse that's near the lead, on the lead, close to the lead, there overseas, sometimes they come over here and they're not, and that's my worry. I think Highfield Princess is good enough to not be on the lead with him, but keep him within range to where if he starts to kind of back up, Highfield Princess should be within range. She doesn't have to make up a ton of ground on him. Based on the replays I'm seeing, that's what I think is going to happen. I think she's going to sit kind of in the second flight towards the front. But again, translating that to the American turf is always a little bit, hey, Cooper, always a little bit different and a little bit tougher.
Yes, you can. He wants to hear you talk, dude. So. All
right, there you go.
There you go.
Now he can listen.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. What are you doing?
Daddy.
Who do you think is going to win the Breeders' Cup?
Hey, Daddy.
What?
This meat is going to be good.
This what?
The meat.
Oh, this meat's going to be good. We're going to have some steak after we get off here, boys.
Is he cooking?
Steak. It's what's for dinner. That's what we're going to have over here. Are you cooking it for me? Does that smell steak? No. All right. Why don't you go whip it up? Right. Oh, my gosh. All the parents that you guys know, like when your kids are, so he's been sick. He's on day 4 of being out of school. He's got the flu, and it's like everyone knows when the medicine starts really kicking in and feels like it's doing work. It like pumps them straight through the roof, and so he's on.
Yeah.
Hey,
well, he's feeling good.
Get out. Scram. All right. Anyways, let's go to the Big S Fans Dirt Mile. This is a race that's kind of turned out to be pretty interesting, Halterman. You know, a race that, the Dirt Mile is always a fun race because usually you have like that one really good horse. Life is good. Knicks go. But this year, it's kind of a really good betting race. We kind of thought Good Night might be in the sprint. We didn't know if Cyberknife would aim for the Classic or this race. Jack Christopher, we didn't know if he would be in this race or go to the sprint. He's going to go to the sprint. So it really opens it up. Laurel River. There's all these Senior Buscador, your boy, Simplification, Slow Down Andy is going to go here. So what the hell are you doing with this one?
It's really funny because both days, Friday and Saturday, it seems like the races go from hard to easier as far as me coming to a conclusion. And same way Saturday, this is another one that I really didn't think it'd be all that difficult. You look at this, there's a lot of different ways you can go. I think it'll be a pretty fast pace, but it's also a short stretch, so they could be able to hold on. We saw a fast pace last year or 2 years ago over this track, and it was Nick's go, and he held on. So it's a weird race. This is a mixed bag of every horse is like, yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's good. There's no great horse. There's no bad horse. We're all in the middle here. This is a tough race. I have no opinion on it right now as far as who's going to win it. It's going to be a fun one. I think you need to go deep.
So far, my thought process here is I want speed. It's proven. But to your point, who is going to be there? Who's going to do it? Who's going to be the horse? I mean, if I knew for a fact Cyberknife was going to try to do what he did in the Travers, I would feel pretty okay with that. If I thought Good Night might try to go gate to wire, that's a horse that Good Night being any race creates a challenge for anyone else, because he's that kind of horse. We knew that when we thought he might run in that sprint. We're like, well, Jackie's job got a little tougher, and he's that kind of horse. Well, Good Night, no matter what he does, is going to make someone the job a little more difficult. Laurel River, a horse that's got speed, but not necessarily on the pace. And then you got Slow Down Andy, a horse that maybe his best chance of winning the race would be to try to go gate to wire. So it's one of those races I feel like the gate breaks and you're like, oh, that horse went to the lead. And you just, you're kind of trying to feel it. But I do think you want to be in that very first kind of flight. It just seems like that kind of race. And I think Cyberknife, but I'm with you. I don't have a great opinion.
I'm leaning Cyberknife as of right now, but it's definitely, he feels like he's been through the wars and now he's cutting back, and now it's like this kind of feels like a crowning moment for you for a season that has been sporadic, to say the least. One, the Haskell, that's a crowning moment. Don't get me wrong, but just kind of underachieved at times. I don't know. I just feel like this is a good spot for him to try.
Yes, this isn't, well, unless something happens crazy. Yeah, it's a guarantee that this is where he's going to end up. Second preference for Cyberknife is the Classic, and Jack Christopher's second preference is this race. His first preference is the sprint, and they'll get in those races. So, and Good Night. Yeah, Good Night's a guaranteed second preference is a sprint. So they could go in those races, but something crazy would have to happen. And these races they're going to fill. So obviously, or they're going to get in the race, so to speak. So I was going to say something about Cyber. Oh, so yes. Okay. So let's think about it this way. It almost seems too simple to think about it this way, but you look at this, he wins the Haskell. He beat Taba, by the way, who many, myself included, think could win the Classic. He won the Matt Win. Okay. He came in the Travers and ran a hell of a race, got beat by Epicenter, another horse that could run very, very well in the Classic. And then next time out goes to the Pennsylvania Derby and runs he runs a tough race, but gets beat by Taba. And I get, the Zandon part isn't great. That's not great, but still, he gets beat by Taba and Epicenter in his last 2 races, and 2 horses who most are going to consider are the top threats to the Classic winner, or to Flightline, who we think is going to win the Classic. So my point is, he gets the class relief, and now he shortens up in distance. Like, it seems too simple to think of it that way, because he should win.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. And I think the class of the field is him or Cody's Wish, because Cody's Wish did beat Jackie's Warrior, last time out. So I think it's one of those two. If you're looking from a class standpoint, yeah. I mean, listen. If we're really high on those 3-year-olds, which we are, you have to be kind of high on Cyberknife, because, like I said, he ran a tough race. Even in those last 2 races they lost, he ran tough and he ran hard, and he got a shitty trip in the Pennsylvania Derby, or he may have got second in that race, All
right, let's go to the next one here. The Maker's Mark Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf, and a race that's always a really fun one. It seems like every year. And this year, the Overseas, and it sounds like it's always an Overseas horse, or it's Chad Brown, one of the two. And this year, you kind of get to pick between those two, because you've got an Italian who Chad's got running, does have her running better than she has her entire career. And then Nashua coming in from Overseas, who looks really, really good for John Gostin, of course. So, it seems like you have to make your pick between those two. Having said that, there's plenty of options in this race.
Boy, is there. This is going to be a star-studded race. I think it's going to be Chad Brown or a European horse. So, and I think you mentioned the ones that are interesting. Saffron Beach is a horse. I've been kind of impressed with a couple of her replays, and then a couple not so impressed. So I've got to make a decision on her a little bit. Above the Curve is a horse I kind of like as well. There's a few in here, but it might be as simple as an Italian taking this thing gate to wire. She's in fantastic form. I think she's got a great shot to do it too. There's a lot of different ways you can go in this one. Again, it's another one that seems to be wide open. I don't see a ton of pace, like I said, though. So, and they just said Saffron Beach is out. Great. Well, that makes it easier for an Italian and Nashua. It's probably one of those two after that.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. Your job got a little bit easier now, Halterman.
It made it a lot easier, because she was the type. At times you would watch her and be like, okay, that's a pretty good horse. And then at times you watch her and it's like, no, I don't think so. So that's good.
Yeah. I don't, in Italian is a horse that, just seems like has been, you look at this horse is literally almost at least the last 4 has not been the favorite. Chad's always got, another one in the race that's better than him, right? Or better than her, whether it be Regal Glory or Technical Analysis, or Regal Glory, Speak of the Devil, those kind of horses. It didn't work out well for her the first 2 times they tried that, but the last 2, it's worked out well. She's kind of held them off and said, no, sorry, this little setup that you guys had planned out, I ain't quitting, right? I'm going to keep going. But I know it was a 1 8.2 back, but now you're going a 3/16 here. So that's the danger. How will she get a little weary-legged here? And that becomes a little concerning for me, because otherwise I agree with you. Like she's been, I'm kind of done thinking, because I used her last time out, but I'm like, I'm done thinking like she's just some rabbit, because she's not.
She's definitely not a rabbit. And I agree. It's a situation where you got a little bit better horse chasing you home. That's the scary thing about it, because these European horses aren't playing. And Nashua certainly is the most consistent of the ones that you see from coming in from overseas. And she's the one you got to beat in the spot now, especially with that Saffron Beach news.
All right, let's go to the Guitar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. This is going to be a doozy right here, folks. Look at this. You've got Jackie's Warrior, of course, trying to finally get that elusive Breeders' Cup win. He goes and runs well during the year, and then gets here. Last year he faltered, of course. And now we talked a lot about this, Halterman, about what Chad Brown would do with Jack Christopher, and wherever he chose, we knew he would be a serious play, obviously, because he likes him enough to enter him in said race, and he chose this one, which is definitely the tougher of the two, facing a horse like Jackie's Warrior. Jack Christopher versus Jackie's Warrior. Dude, I'll set it up. You take it, man.
Pace makes the race. This is going to be a huge key. This is a sprint that is devoid of speed. And so Jackie's Warrior is going to get the trip he wants. Now, the good news is if you like Jack Christopher like I do, Jack Christopher can sit close. If you watch all of his races, he's never on the lead, but he's never way out of it. He can sit a length, 2 lengths off the lead and pounce at the top of the stretch and be within range of Jackie's Warrior. That's the race. That's the race right there. Will Jackie's Warrior be able to set the pace and stay this year? Like I said, it really looks to set up completely different than it did last year. But I think Jack Christopher's right there ready to pounce. I really think it's a 2-horse race between those two. I think they're going to run away from the rest of this group.
Man, when I saw this news, I was pumped for my bet on Jack Christopher here. I cannot wait to bet this horse because I just think Chad making this decision, I hoped he did because that means he thinks he's doing even better to go and face a horse like Jackie's Warrior to win this race, to cut him back even further to the 6 furlongs. I think he's going to eat, man. I really, because I think what makes him so good, so dangerous, is like you said, like he can sit really close to that very quick pace setup. But then when the time comes, he's there. Like you're going to have to fight Jack Christopher off if you're Jackie's Warrior. You ain't going to just go out there and cruise and, you're never going to see anybody. Jack Christopher will be there. It's just a matter of can he run him down. I personally think Jackie's Warrior is going to have to run a monster race, and he might to win here.
I think he's going to have to. I really don't think Jackie's Warrior wins unless the pace is really slow. I just don't think it, because I just look back at Jackie's Warrior's races this year. They have been very good, but he hadn't really faced much. And now you're going to have to face a horse that is going to move into you a little bit earlier than he's been, used to this year. He may dig right back in and fend him off, and I wouldn't be shocked because, like I said, I think the pace setup is going to look good, but I lean Jack Christopher in this spot right now. And there's people on Twitter that say things that it's like, whatever. There are analysts out there that are saying things on Twitter like this was a terrible decision for Jack Christopher in the sprint because he can't get the lead in this spot. And I want to reply so bad. Do you watch horse racing?
Have you ever seen him run?
He never is in the lead. Let me be very clear on something. He may lose this race because, let's face it, Jackie's Warrior is very good. He's not going to lose the race because he didn't get to the front. He never goes to the front. He's always second. He's always a little bit off the pace. This is a perfect setup for Jack Christopher. It could not be any better. He has a target like he always does. Now, the difference is the target this time is much better than what he usually has to run down. That's where the intrigue comes. That's where it makes it a great race. It's definitely possible that Jackie's Warrior is going to kick away from him. It's very possible. But Jack Christopher is going to sit the perfect trip in this race. It cannot get any better from a trip than what Jack Christopher is going to sit.
I'm really torn because I want to see, like, Jackie deserves a win in the Breeders' Cup. He goes and fights every battle all year long. And then last year, he obviously was very tired in that Breeders' Cup sprint, went too fast, and then faltered. Has been pretty much flawless. Well, he has been flawless this year up until that forgo. Going longer, going that 7 furlongs, maybe that was enough to get him beat. Probably was. But you want to see him win. But man, I just think Jack Christopher, like everyone forgets. I think that he's a 3. We talk about how good our 3-year-olds are. He's a 3-year-old, and to that point, I wanted to ask you, like, because he's running all these little races, but the races that aren't the Travers and the Haskell and the he did run the Haskell, but he didn't win. But you know what I mean? Like, he's not pointing to the Classic. He's not running the Pennsylvania Derby. So with him, like the way they've kind of gotten here, and let's say Tabo doesn't run well. Let's say Epicenter doesn't run well in the Classic. Maybe they're 5th, 6th, whatever. Somewhere, they don't run great. Jack Christopher, if he wins here, is he make a case here for 3-year-old of the year?
Well, I think he's a finalist, but in this country, we just don't appreciate sprinters, and so that's it. Like, he had to win that Haskell, And when he didn't, that was kind of it for him as far as 3-year-old of the year. But I think he's a finalist for the award. Epicenter is going to win it, most likely. Taba has a shot. And then, maybe Rich Strike, if he runs well, can have a shot as well. But Jack Christopher, unfortunately, like I said, with the voting, they don't hold sprinters in high regard. He's the sprinter of the year if he wins it, though. So there's that, right? And listen,
he's lost one time in his career in 6 starts, and that was the only one time that they went 2 turns with him. Tried to go 2 turns. That's it. And he's never been close in any other ones.
And people are critical of that Haskell. He ran a great race in that Haskell. He does not want to go long. He ran the same exact race. He flattened out a bit because he doesn't want to go that far. And he got beat by Cyberknife and Taba, 2 horses that are really good. Guess what? He came back in the 7 furlong Alan Jerkins and beat Gunite. All he's done is just freaking destroy 2 fields since. So much so that they said, we got to go to the Breeders' Cup with this horse. He's that good. So he's really, really talented. I mean,
and then Goodnight Cruz has been, done. I think he's, Aspie's has done a fantastic job with Goodnight, getting him to where he's at and beat the hell out of him. And we're sitting here talking about Goodnight could he win the Breeders' Cup race? Like, is he that horse? Like, if you think that, you got to love Jack Christopher.
And lastly, do we think Chad Brown is stupid? No.
Well, in his personal life, yes.
Well, yes.
But not with horses. Absolutely not.
No. He spots horses to win races, and he spotted this horse in the sprint. He knows Jackie's Warrior is going to be there. That tells you how good he thinks Jack Christopher is doing coming in this race. Again, am I saying he's a lock? No, because Jackie's Warrior is really good, and the pace is going to probably favor him, at least on paper. But this is a serious, serious challenge, and I will take every bit of Jack Christopher at a little bit bigger price than this.
Yeah, what do you think we'll get on him?
That's a really good question. 3-1?
I think at least. Maybe, that might be about right. I
mean, Jackie's Warrior is going to be the favorite. It just depends on how strong. Is he 8-5 or is he even money? That's going to determine what Jack Christopher is.
There's going to be a lot of money bet on both of those horses. So, all right, let's go to the next one here. FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile. And look, it's your boy. Oh, what you got here? Are you hungry? You hungry? Well, we're going to have dinner as soon as we're done here, okay? Who do you like in this race? Justify. Yeah, I do too. Justify wins every race.
For the turf.
Every race we watch, Justify's going to win. The Breeders' Cup Mile. Your boy Modern Games Halterman looks to. Technically he did win the race on the records. He won the race, but you're looking to cash a ticket on Modern Games this year. Can he do it? Because you do. This is a nice race. Once again, like no shocker, right? But Annapolis has been good. Obviously, domestic spending making that return. That's hard to believe, even that he's coming, smooth like straight. Can he, Mr. Hit the Board? Regal Glory, is she finally going to, come back to what we maybe thought she was earlier in the year? Order of Australia. There's a bunch in here, dude. What are you going?
I think European horses are where you got to go in here. I like Modern Games a lot, obviously. The horse that beat Modern Games, Bayside Boy, is here. So we'll see what happens. That was 2 wins in a row for that horse. And like I said, beat Modern Games last time out. So that I thought he was interesting. And what about Kinross? That horse is really interesting to me as well. I'm kind of between those 3 in this one. And now Bayside Boy is out. What the hell? Like, do I not get on Twitter for a day and this all happens? Well, it's making my life easier. I'll go Modern Games, I guess.
Yeah, you need. To be fair, Twitter sucks. So,
well, I never get on it, but I guess I need to
stay off of it.
Kinross or Modern Games.
Yeah, that to me, that's where you have to go, and I think you feel good about either one. To me, Modern Game. The only issue is, and you kind of wish that you either wouldn't have ran that next race or would have won. Obviously, would have made, but getting beat that day was like, damn it. But still, has come overseas twice and been really good both times for Appleby, and I don't see any reason why he cannot win here. I don't know, man. It's one of those races that feels a little easy, but a horse like Regal Glory, like that's one that you got to be careful with leaving off, I think, even though clearly has been beat the last two and kind of decisively so by an Italian and Casa Creed. But it's like at one point she was deadly, and you would sure hate to get beat by her and Chad Brown here.
Yes, you would. And I think she is very scary in this spot. And I think especially if you really like in Italian, then Regal Glory kind of becomes the play a little bit here, or at least in play. You know, I just think it's a situation where, you know, these European horses that are going to eventually come over are just a little bit better than she is. And that's my worry. And especially with one like Modern Games that we've seen run well here in this country. So that's kind of the worry.
Yeah. I hope, yeah, man, I wonder what I wonder like a lot of people are going to be like, I'm going to bet Modern Games. Like I get to bet him. Like I'm going to bet him. I wonder what his odds will be, because you got to think he'll be bet hard.
And then, yeah, I think so too. And that's why I've kind of been like, well, here's another international, Ken Ross. Here's another international before didn't read Twitter, Bayside Boy. It's like, yeah, let's try to take a Modern Games type that's not named Modern Games so we could get triple the price. But in reality, the horse is almost as good as him or as good as him. So I'm with you. I want Modern Games to win. I really like that horse, but now it's kind of trending to the point where it's like, well, there's some others in here that might be able to beat him and we'll get paid.
All right, 3 to go here. The distaff, obviously, and the Classic, both relatively short field sizes. But, I mean, it's one of those situations that what more do you want? The Longines Breeders Cup distaff, which is going to be race 9 on the card on Saturday. And really it comes down to Malathot versus Nest, the battle of the barn. And then, of course, you've got search results in here who might make a case. Secret Oath, of course, running, no shock there. Society, who was really good. Clariere, at one point was the top dog a little bit of this division. But to me, it's like this is right up there with maybe my second most logical horse I think is going to win, Nest, on Saturday.
I don't know if I rank her second, but rank her up there top 3, 4, 5 maybe. I feel pretty good about her. I think it's going to set up decent for her. The one thing I am a bit concerned about, Society, I just see this horse being loose, and that's a bit of a worry for me. I think Nest would really love to see search results press Society. On this track, if she gets loose, that could be an upset potential. But I think Nest is not going to let a horse like Clariere, Malathot, and we know Secret Oath pass her. Therefore, I think it's just Nest trying to catch the front runners. She's been doing a really good job of it. I mean, she's going to be tough in the spot.
The thing about Nest is we haven't seen a second gear out of her since the Belmont. She just has been cruising, just workouts, and so it's easy to kind of say, well, I hope she we just don't I'm convinced, especially after the way she's ran the last 3, that with a little bit better trip there, she may have won the Belmont. It certainly would have been right there. It would have been, it would have made us sweat our Mo Donegal bet out heavily, I imagine. And in the Oaks, I can't make a lot of, how she got beat there. Secret Oath just ran a massive race that day. But Nest, to me, all year since the Oaks and running the Belmont really was like, okay, she's legit. She is totally legit. I think the only way she gets beat here is if her stablemate does it. Malathot. This is a horse that, probably should have won last year, had every reason to win, just didn't win. But she, as recently, has kind of maybe remembered how to win again. I don't know. I see Malathot, to me, because we've always said Nest is the horse we thought Malathot was last year, right? As a 3-year-old, and maybe Malathot's coming into her own again here.
Well, the one thing about it, Malathot really dominated a race for the first time ever, just dominated a race last time out over this track. So that is a very good sign. I get it. I think if you put it real simply, it should be one of those two. I would hate to try to back Clairiere with a lot of enthusiasm because of how she ran last time out. I know she had a ton of excuses, but we didn't really see her after that. So obviously, you just don't know how she's going to come into it. I think Malathot is interesting into the day. I just think Nest is a better horse.
Oh, and I agree. I mean, Michael, like, I get if she beat last race. Like, that's the thing about Malathot. Whether it be like a really good grade 1 race or a great shitty grade 1 or not, whatever. She's always ran that kind of race where she's right there but can't quite get past whoever. So you feel like she's grinding, but she's not quite there. She also looks like she could eat every horse on the track. Like, she's a big horse, but as of lately, like, sometimes all it takes is for a horse to kind of remember how to win, and being a Curlin horse, like, you got to think, obviously she's going to get better and get a little bit more professional as she goes on her career. I've seen a few of these questions about Society. Could that be the horse that a lot of people are just going to throw out and not even consider because you've got the Malathot and you've got the Nest, you've got the Secret Oath, who people still love. You've got search results in here, but Society, kind of the up and comer, is really beating the shit out of some fields lately.
Yeah, and I think people are going to look at the Coaching Club American Oaks where Society got stomped by Ness, but she also didn't really get the trip she wanted that day either. So yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of the up and comer. It's going to be the class test, and again, it's just the pace situation. She does look like she's going to be loose, so that's the key. Can she get loose over this Keeneland track and sneak away from them? That's how she's going to win in this spot. That's how she won last time. I think the difference is you got a horse like Ness that's got a little bit more talent, obviously, than what she faced last time. And you've got search results, who hopefully goes up there and at least keeps her a little bit of company as well.
Yeah, you got to think that, I mean, I think Society, I don't know, Society might be, they might think, like, the only way we're going to win, and I guess draw will depend on this as well, especially where search results ends up. The only way we're going to win this thing is if we go gate to wire with Society. That's our only chance, is we just don't let them get close. And so kind of like the idea of playing like a Nest over Society straight exacta or something like that. Like, you hope Nest can get to her late and then, hold off like the Malathot or the Secret Oath or a lot of those. That might pay quite well with two seemingly logical results there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I agree. I think you're right.
Let's go two left here. The Breeders' Cup Turf. Of course, this is the $4 million race. The race right before the Classic, going 1.5 miles. And, obviously a huge turf race in the United States every single year, internationally as well. And Nation's Pride. And, coming over here, of course, you've got the internationals you've got the United States horses like Warlike Goddess, but then you also have Rebels Romance, Nation's Pride, Appleby, but you've got a bunch in here, Mishriff and Stone Age. You have Broom, who dang near won the thing last year. Are you going Rebels Romance? Are you going the Appleby angle, or do you think the filly Warlike Goddess? Is there anything that makes you think that Warlike Goddess can win?
I hope Warlike Goddess wins, but I think Rebels Romance is just a little bit better than everybody else in this field. I really like Rebels Romance a lot. I do like Warlike Goddess. I think the horse will run well. I think the horse comes up and gives Rebels Romance a run for the money here. But end of the day, this Rebels Romance horse looks really, really good for Appleby.
Nation's Pride is a lock, is what Matt says. Look at that. He's the pick. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's a lock by any stretch, but I do think he can win, no doubt.
I think he can hit the board for sure. I don't know that he's quite as good as Rebels Romance Warlike Goddess. I think that's where it's at. I think after that, I think so. I really liked Nation's Pride last time out. I thought he looked awesome. But this is a different ballgame. That's my worry, right? And, the good news is our American-based horses for this specific race aren't great. Like, Warlike Goddess is really good. The rest of them kind of seem like filler, kind of feels a lot like Nation's Pride. Can definitely compete with the rest of them. It's just like, boy, can he beat a horse like Rebels Romance? I am not sure. I think it's going to be tough.
What, buddy? No. Hey, he thinks Justify's going to win here too, by the way. So, I you know, you got to like the fact that Nation's Pride's been over here, you know, well, it's been running over here all summer. And so obviously it's kind of got that, you know, American style running down. I think Rebels Romance is kind of a beast, to be honest with you. You know, winning, you know, 4 straight races, back-to-back Group 1s. I mean, this horse is the fact that he brought both kind of makes me wonder a little bit, like if he's like just saying that, you know what, Rebels Romance was the horse that we have liked all along, going to bring here all along, but Nation's Pride has been is deserves to run here because of how good he's been running.
Well, I mentioned it earlier. He being Charlie Appleby really will kind of tip his hand on who he likes, and we'll find out. That interview for him, and I don't know when they'll do it. I don't know. Last year, I think it was like Saturday before the Breeders' Cup. This is the week before they had the interview out. I think that he'll tell us, and he might say, "Hey, Nation's Pride, I brought him over here because I think he's going to win." I mean, he's really kind of that direct about it at times. Well,
there you go. There's all the more reason to check out what Appleby's going to say the week of, and really get an idea of which runners he's keying in on, because I think out of like I said, a lot of them, like he only has one, and you kind of have a good feel for him, obviously. But with this kind of situation, 2 good horses, one that you know a lot about considering he's been over here, one that you don't necessarily, gives you a little bit of a clarity, maybe, hopefully, as we go here. Are you going to help me? I can't see him. You want here? Sit on my lap. Okay.
There you go.
Finish this bad boy off. What do you say? Let's talk about the main event. You want to talk about the main event? Let's do it. The last race of the day, race 11, the Longines Breeders Cup Classic. A little horse by the name of Flightline. Remember I told you about Flightline? Flightline. He's going to be the headliner of the whole Breeders' Cup. Of course, will be the favorite of this one here. It's not a matter of will he be the favorite. It's how low will his odds go. And really, we've talked about this horse, for half the year. And, since he's been aimed to the Classic, we've picked him to win the Classic. Nothing's changed. I mean, it seems like it's whether it's really, if he shows up, everyone else is running for second.
It feels that way. This is a really fascinating pace scenario. This is one of the most fascinating ones of them all. If Flightline was not in this race, we would be saying Life is Good is home free. There is no other speed that can even get close to him. It would be a lot like last year. And I think it's going to be a lot like last year anyway, with the big difference of Flightline in the race instead of the other horses that were in that race last year. Life is Good's going to get loose, but Flightline probably won't let him get too far out of his sight and probably just range up and pass him. But it's a fascinating situation that could occur. We've seen how speed holds at Keeneland. We've seen Life is Good, a horse that has a ton of speed. He's going to get loose in this race. There's no doubt, but I do think Flightline has enough of that early kick to keep him within range.
I've seen some of these, like, you really, like, I don't know about you. Flightline is not that much faster than Epicenter. I don't know about Taiwan, but I'm guessing it's Taiwan, the horse. I think that's insanity.
Can I rebut that?
Sure, it's your show.
Time form wise, Flightline ran a 151 last time out, which is the highest I've ever seen. I think it's the highest that's ever been given. Epicenter's best time form is a 131. That's a 20-point difference. Let's see. Taba's best time form is a 133, so an 18-point difference. Usually, like a 5 to 8-point difference is pretty significant. We're talking about 18s and 20s. Again, it's one measure. But to say he's not crunched the numbers, I don't agree with that. Like, the numbers tell me he's much faster.
And I'll bring it home a little bit with you for you as well. He that last race in Pacific Classic, of course, stretching out for the first time, he got a 126 buyer that day. The high buyer of Epicenter's career is a 112. Okay, which is what Flightline runs standard. Okay, that's kind of his baseline, 112, 110, 112. So he ran at 126. And so you want to talk about that's a huge increase. And I think sometimes we can kind of, when you get in the high numbers, especially with time form, we're like 150, 130, who cares? Like, that's really high. But think about it this way. Think about 100. Yeah, I'm not done. 100 versus 80. Okay, in a race. If you saw that, you're like, well, that's not even close. The horse that got an 80 time form is not even close. So when you think about it that way, it really isn't that close in terms of the talent level.
If he runs that race, forget about it. It's over. Crunch all the numbers you want. He's gonna have to regress, period. And he might. I mean, he could for sure. This is a horse that has had trouble staying healthy. Maybe he just doesn't show up that day. Maybe something happens, but you can't think that these horses are just as fast as him. But no metric says that. That's the problem. The key to the race to me is, do you think he's not going to show up, number one? Or do you think, like, the field is so much better this time than what he faced last time that it's just kind of, the class level might get to him. The horses are better, and maybe they speed him up a little bit earlier than he wants to speed up, and they put him in some positions because they're a little bit better than what he's been facing, to where he has to kind of, do some things that he hasn't done before. That's what you're looking at. Because the thing is, if he stubs his toe, if he doesn't run very well, he will get beat. Okay? He's going to have to regress some, but if he does, he will get beat, because there are horses in here that are very good. Epicenter, Taba, Life is Good. These are really, really good horses. These horses can beat him if he stubs his toe. So that's what you're rooting for. Don't get it twisted. Like, you want to go against him, great. I mean, I get it. You got to go against a favorite, but you're just hoping he doesn't show up with a good race.
Yeah, I mean, that's in that, and you can go talk to Matt, anybody that's talked to these trainers. They've all said it, whether it be Baffert or whether it be Doug O'Neill with Hot Rod. It doesn't really matter. It's like they're like, yeah, I mean, we realize Flightline's in the race. Like he's a freak, but we got to try to run. Try to run in it. You still got to try to beat him. And so I haven't seen anybody that says he's not what we think he is. To me, it's just, I think he's so intelligent. Like I'm more impressed. I've been more impressed with just visually watching him run versus like how fast he's doing it or whatever. You know what I mean? Just the way he looks on the track, how professional he looks. That Met Mile, when seemingly everything went wrong early in that race for him, and he just said, "All right, I'm chill," and then took him out of there. And then even in the Pacific Classic, when kind of out of nowhere, you're like, oh, he's not going to lead. Like, someone else is trying to push him. And then it's just like, no, he's ready to run now. He's ready to put them, you know what I mean? Like, he just seems that intelligent of a horse that puts him in another level past being extremely talented. Like, say, like a Life is Good.
I mean, yeah, and that's exactly. I just really feel like, if you're betting against him, you just are hoping, right? And you're just making that case. He ran so good that he's got to bounce. And so if he bounces, we're going to get paid. And I get it. And there's plenty of options to go at, but just nothing you can look at on this form, on this paper, and say he's going to lose, And the thing about it is, guys, that is disheartening if you're trying to beat him. He ran this distance last time out and got better by all the metrics. He got better. It's crazy.
It's I always would always tell you or anyone, like, you'll know if Nick's Go is going to win, like by right that point over there. Basically when they get out of that first turn. With Flightline, it kind of feels like you'll know really as they get into the far turn if he's going to win or not, because by then, if they turn for home and he's still very close to everyone else, you might know he might be in a little trouble. Yeah. His biggest weapon is kind of when he's ready to run, it's over. He literally kills the rest of the horses because they don't have the ability to keep up with him when he goes to that next gear. And any of those horses that were tracking earlier, well, shit, they're done. He's completely ran into. Like, he basically destroyed Speaker's Corner. That horse has never been right since.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And one thing I'll say though is I'm not going to be overly shocked if he loses. And here's why. This is one of the better classic fields we've had. This field is much better than last year's group. And that's just strictly by the numbers, no opinion.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
looking at time form numbers. This group is a much, much better. He will have to earn it. This Epicenter has turned into a beast. Life is good. A horse that many are just saying, the hell with him. He destroyed Nixgo, who won the Classic last year. He absolutely destroyed him in the Pegasus. He's destroyed everybody in this country when he's been running. That is a good horse. I don't care what you guys think. That is a good horse. You're going to have to earn it to beat that horse. Nobody else has been able to beat him in this country. And then you have Taba, who is just working lights out. Bob Baffert absolutely loves this horse, and he's getting better and better with every start. You better run your egg race or you're going to lose. I mean, he's going to have to earn it. And that's why I say I'm not going to be shocked if he loses, because this field is stout. But this horse is, this horse might win last year's Classic by 30.
Oh, yeah.
And that's an exaggeration, but he might win it by 10.
He would never have to get out of the first gear to beat
No.
last year's group. I mean, he would have eaten up Nixgo,
Yep.
And that's just it. And that also to your point, you have two 3-year-olds in the race that could definitely win Horse of the Year.
I mean,
if they
that's
won.
just it.
Two of them, 2 3-year-olds that could win Horse of the Year. So
a win for Taba, a win for Epicenter, and they're the Horse of the Year. And I'm telling you, as excited as I am to see Flightline, and I am super excited to see him, it almost would be better if we didn't have him in the race from a race perspective as far as competitive, because how fun would Epicenter and Taba be with Life is Good in the mix and throw in Olympiad, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is a super competitive race. But with Flightline, it just feels like he's in another dimension away from these horses. And again, I mean, if he doesn't show up, they're good enough to beat him. But all indications are he is really, really pumped. And listen, last thing I'll say, Gary Young, who is a been a clocker for a long time, Southern California, one of the most trusted clockers of all time. He has an interest in Taba. He helped purchase Taba. He's in the Taba camp. He was on Steve Bick. John White sent us this interview. He was analyzing Taba's work and Flightline, and he was over the moon about Taba. He's doing great, doing fantastic. He gets the Flightline, and you could almost tell through his voice. He wants to throw up because he knows they can't beat him.
yeah,
He's so good. He's like, he's just amazing. He's like, if you don't like that work, I don't know what to tell you. He's coming in so well to this race. And you can tell he's like, I love our horse, and I know we can't beat him unless he just doesn't show up. And that's a sickening feeling when you have a horse as good as Taba. And I'm sure you got a horse as good as Epicenter, and I'm sure the Asfus camp feels the same way. It has to be a sickening feeling.
Yeah, but it's the Classic. It's a $6 million race. You run second or run third in this race, so fourth. I mean, you're making great money, right? I mean, it's a great, especially for these 3-year-olds who, you are going to be running next year. Epicenter and Taba, you would think, will be running next year. It's a huge race, obviously, especially from here. Maybe they go to the Pegasus, so it's a big, I think this, Epicenter has nothing to prove, in my opinion. Taba, this is a big race for Taba to figure out what is he made of, because you've made mention of this a lot, where it's like, okay, like they rushed him into the whole mess. Of course, Baffert was gone. You had the whole deal. They had to reset everything with him. They had to get him back to now. And that's what makes him so dangerous here, is because he is kind of the fresh horse quote. He's peaking right now, whereas a lot of Bafferts typically would have peaked at the Derby, right? Because that's kind of what his MO is. But now this horse is peaking in the fall, kind of like Arrogate did when he peaked in the Classic. So, well, I guess he technically peaked in Dubai, but you know what I mean? Like he kept getting better at the right time. Bayern did that as well. So he's kind of got that feel for a horse for Baffert, who's just peaking at the right time, and it happens to be the Classic.
I think you have, honestly, 3 horses peaking at the right time. I think Flightline is peaking, believe it or not. I think Tava is
Scary.
for sure, and you made the case. How can you say Epicenter is not peaking? He has been brilliant in his last 2 starts. So you got 3 right there that seem like they're ready to run a huge race. And then you kind of got that Life is Good that kind of seems to be going backwards just a bit, right? And so that's why I think people aren't quite as excited about him. But those 3 main contenders are set up to run really, really well in this race.
Well, it's going to be a doozy. I mean, we could talk about this race all night, and honestly, the work is really we're already doing it, of course, but you're gonna have to make the decision, of a lot of these races. Who you gonna roll with? Obviously, we'll have all kinds of content and our picks and the guide and another blinkers off and all of like official picks that you can stay tuned for. But for now, that is a look at all. Basically 205 of the pre-entered horses for the Breeders' Cup.
I didn't mention it, but Rich Strike really is coming into the race peaking. He's coming into the race much better right now than he did in the Derby.
Yeah.
So he's another one.
That's true. I hate to say it, but he is. I mean, they talk about a horse that he kind of reset as well, even though he won the damn race. He kind of got pushed into doing maybe a little more stuff than he would have done normally because of him winning that race. And now they have had to kind of reset with him. And yeah, I mean, he's the fact that they decided to run him here is a little bit, a little dangerous in terms of if you don't want to use him, You know
what's awesome about the Breeders' Cup, Jared?
What's that?
Vicky's going to be there. That's what's awesome.
Love Vicky. The last time we saw her, we had many drinks at Saratoga together.
That's right, and we saw a great Travers Day. So she brings the good luck.
She does, and she's our biggest fan. It's like she's always nice to us. So even if we're like 0 for 13 on the Breeders' Cup races, she'll come to us before the Classic and be like, "I'm going with you guys. Let's do it." And you're like, "Hey, you know what? Appreciate that." So she's a mega fan. Appreciate it. All right. That's all the time we have. Check out racingnews.com for our free picks and our premium selections on our products page. Click the Get Racing News premium button in the menu at racingnews.com to learn more. Remember that Breeders' Cup wagering guide now available on the website at racingnews.com. The pre-sale is going. We obviously we're still working on that. The fields aren't even out yet. I mean, we know the pre-entered, but we don't. We're not going to make final decisions until we see the draw on Monday. So that you can go ahead and get the guide. It's a preview version of the guide. You'll be the first to get access to the actual guide once we push that out early next week. So make sure you go ahead and get your hands on that so you'll be ready when it is live. And the 14 trends to the Breeders' Cup will be live by the time you're listening to this. If you're listening to the podcast version, it will be live on the website as well. And it's free, totally free. You can take a look at that. We'll push that out as well. So make sure you go check that out as well. I'll keep going, Halterman. We got 2 tournaments next week. We've got back-to-back tournaments on Friday and Saturday. Okay, what?
And they're going to be awesome.
Okay, I'm being too loud because he's watching his video.
Gotcha.
Of course, right? Like, why would I be talking loud for the podcast? And 2 tournaments, one on Friday, one Saturday, both Keeneland, of course, to qualify for the Dudes Championship Series that will be taking place December 26th on Malibu Day. So stay tuned for more information on that. So, dude, hope you're ready to handicap. Lots of it coming your way.
I am ready.
Good, because that's what you do. So I appreciate that. Remember to follow us at race_dudes on Instagram and Facebook. We'll have tons of content, obviously, out there, of course, leading up to the Breeders' Cup. And while we're at the Breeders' Cup, listen to all episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page, Apple Podcasts, Google, all the places you listen to podcasts. We will be there as well. Of course, go to our YouTube page. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that notification bell when you get alerted. When we go live, we'll be live during the Breeders' Cup. We won't be, but Slim, and I don't even want to know who else he's getting for that. Vinny, I think, will be on it as well. Maybe he can get a guest or two, I guess. Are we policing this at all?
We're not doing one.
He's not doing one?
No. We're going to have live shows. Okay, so here's our live show schedule. Monday.
I missed that meeting. You failed to update me on that one.
I gave you the whole thing. Actually,
I see. Why would we not do it?
Because we have Slim, and that's it to do it.
I mean, it's fair. I get it. Don't get me
There you go.
wrong.
So here's our live schedule: Monday for the draw, then Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. Thursday night previewing the Breeders' Cup, obviously. Friday reacting and previewing Saturday, and then Saturday reviewing the entire Breeders' Cup. Very popular shows last year, so that's kind of the live schedule for next week. Yeah, live during the Breeders' Cup, not gonna happen.
Can you send me a memo? I guess you already did, so I'll just read it. I'll just read it closer.
Take your phone and scroll back a couple days when you asked me about it, and you'll have it all right there.
We talk too much. If it's past one day, I have to scroll way too much. Just send it to me again, okay?
Can I plug a couple things before we get off the air?
Actually, you should, because you know more than I do.
Check out the Rockets right now. We are red hot on the Rockets. They are doing fantastic. They hit the pick 5 yesterday at Keeneland, the late pick 5. They hit the early pick 5 at Belmont and the early pick 5 at Keeneland today. Rockets doing really, really well. Make sure to check those out. Also, check out our NFL picks. I was the number 1 NFL handicapper last week out of 274 members on Tally site. You can get our free sports picks. They're always free, just like the racing. You can go to free picks, other sports, and look at all of those. So check those out as well.
I'm gonna tout your tout. If you play fantasy football, if you're into fantasy football, then you know who Adam Rank is because he's a big NFL dude that does fantasy stuff. He was number 2. My boy Halterman beat Adam Rank. So
can I be honest?
You don't know who that is. I don't care.
No idea who that is.
I do. So when I saw that, I literally tweeted that Adam Rank. I said, "Suck on that, Adam Rank."
Oh my god.
It's funny. Like, he gets it. I don't think he liked it though. But still, I was very proud of you to see that, and well done. Although you are picking the Ravens tonight, which you are going to go. You'll be 0 for 1.
Oh, you think it'd be better to pick Tampa Bay?
Do you think it's better to pick Lamar, who can't close a game, Jackson?
Do you think it's better to pick Tampa Bay, who lost 21-3 to Carolina?
They're at home. It's a rebound game. It's Thursday night football. They're gonna bounce back. Okay.
Last week was a rebound game after they lost to the Steelers.
You know what? It's a total bounce back.
Listen,
okay?
These are 2 of the worst teams in the league tonight.
Somehow this game looked like a really good game earlier in the year, and now it's like, ugh.
I hate the Ravens, and I hate Tampa. I think they're both awful.
Yeah. I will watch it because what else am I going to do?
Well, yeah. Me too.
Make sure you go check out the Magic Mike show. By the way, so I'm on the I'm on Tampa Bay, the Bucks. You're on the Ravens. I think Papa Dude's on the Bucks too. So I got him on my side. I saw it on the thing. So I added my pick. Make sure you go listen to the Magic Mike show if you want some Keeneland picks for this weekend. The late pick 5 preview. Make sure you go listen to the Magic Mike show on all the same channels as we listed before. All right, Halterman, it's the final time. Well, not really, but final time we'll be on Blinkers Off until next week. While we're there. Final thoughts.
I'm done with the guide for now. I'm not going to do any more. I'm not going to start writing because all these horses are scratching out of it. I don't want to waste time. So feel good. 2 days of not looking at it. Back Sunday, working on it again. And then Monday, going to finalize it. I could not be more excited for this Breeders' Cup. I think it's one of the best.
What's the one thing? I'm going to put you on the spot. What's the one thing, if you had to tell somebody right now that's just picking up the form that, they know racing, obviously, but they're looking at the Breeders' Cup. What's the one thing? What's the one piece of advice you're going to give them as they look through these horses that are in the Breeders' Cup?
Go to racingdudes.com and buy the guide and put down the form.
Boom. Well, you know what? I tee them up and you just knock them out, my friend. Yep, we're done, boy.
There will be a drunk Blinkers Off on Thursday. Yes.
Yes.
And there will be a drunk show as well on Monday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, there will be a drunk show on every night while we're there, most likely. I mean, any post show will be drinking all day.
Dave, hold on. Dave, I've seen the comments. Yes, he could get beat. What do you want me to say? Try to beat him if you want to try to beat him. Good horses do get beat when you run them.
I mean,
but what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to go into the race and say there's no chance he's going to run a good race today and go somewhere else? Why would I do that?
Okay, here we go. Kevin, great spot. I want to see proof that you bet this, by the way. All right, Cooper, tonight, football game.
Oh,
Okay.
yep.
So the two teams playing are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Baltimore Ravens. The Buccaneers are a pirate and they're red, and the Ravens are black and they're a bird. So who's going to win that game?
The bird.
The birds.
Birds, exactly. He's right.
Woo! The Ravens. He's got the Ravens, guys. Lock it in. Lock it in, Kevin. He's got the Ravens. Honestly, when I said pirate, I really thought I'd sell him on that, but didn't work.
Well, you tried your best, but he's smarter than you.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't say just Justify would win the race because that was great. But there you go. All right, so now I got to change my pick to the Ravens for him. So, all right, guys, we will see you all next week. Make sure you go. Obviously, we have tons of content on the website racedudes.com. Make sure you get that guide if you haven't. Until next time, I'm Jared Welch. He's Cooper Douglas. What's your name?
Cooper Douglas.
Welch.
Cooper Welch.
Cooper Welch, and he's Aaron Halterman. Good luck this weekend, guys.